Hello children. In this video lecture, I will explain you chapter of Beehive, chapter 6, My Childhood, written by APJ Abdul Kalam. APJ Abdul Kalam in full, Abdul Pakir Jainulabdin Abdul Kalam, Indian scientist and politician who played a leading role in the development of India's missile and nuclear weapons program. He is also known as Missile Man. He was President of India from 2002 to 2007. This lesson is an extract from the book Wings of Fire, the autobiography of APJ Abdul Kalam. It talks about his childhood during which he earned his first wages. During this time, he faced religious discrimination and was able to overcome it with the support of others who were not like traditional people. He was motivated by the science teacher to undertake higher studies. Let's know about the characters of the chapter. Abdul Kalam. As a child, he earned his first wages and faced religious discrimination. Siva Subramaniam Iyer. He was the science teacher who reformed his wife by setting an example. Ramanand Shastri, Kalam's close friend during childhood, who was upset when he could not sit beside him in the class. Jainulabdin, Kalam's father. Ashiamma, Kalam's mother. And Arvindan and Shiva Prakashan, his two more friends. Let's start an explanation of the chapter. Before we start it, here few sentences for you children. Can you think of any scientist who have also been statesmen? APJ Abdul Kalam, whose project in space, defense and nuclear technology guided India into the 21st century, became our 11th president in 2002. In his autobiography, Wings of Fire, he speaks of his childhood. Let's read paragraph 1. I was born into a middle-class Tamil family in the island town of Rameshwaram in the erstwhile Madras state. My father, Jainulabdin, had neither much formal education nor much wealth. Despite these disadvantages, he possessed great innate wisdom and a true generosity of spirit. He had an ideal helpmate in my mother, Ashiamma. I do not recall the exact number of people she fed every day, but I am quite certain that far more outsiders ate with us than all the members of our own family put together. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam was born into a middle-class Tamil family, and his place of birth, Rameshwaram, is an island town in the state of Tamil Nadu in the Bay of Bengal. Present days we know this state as Tamil Nadu, but when Kalam was born at that time, the state was known as Madras state. APJ Abdul Kalam's father's name was Jainulabdin. Kalam further said that he was not very rich. He did not have wealth, even he was not highly educated, but in spite of all these disadvantages, he had some other qualities. He was naturally very wise and generous too. APJ Abdul Kalam's mother's name was Ashiamma. She used to help his father. She was a great support and help to him. She was also generous and kind-hearted. Every day she used to feed a lot of people. She fed a greater number of people from the outside than the total number of the members in their family. I was one of many children, a short boy with rather undistinguished looks, born to tall and handsome parents. We lived in our ancestral house, which was built in the middle of the 19th century. It was a fairly large Pakka house, made of limestone and brick on the Mosque Street in Rameshwaram. My austere father used to avoid all inessential comforts and luxuries. However, all necessities were provided for in terms of food, medicine, or clothes. In fact, I would say mine was very secure childhood, both materially and emotionally. Abdul Kalam had many siblings, and he describes himself that he had short height and common looks. He did not have any exceptional looks. On the contrary, his parents were very tall and handsome. They were good looking. Kalam did not inherit their physical qualities. Abdul Kalam's ancestral house was very old. It was built in the 19th century. It was a Pakka house which was made up of brick and limestone. It was located on the Mosque Street in Rameshwaram. Kalam's father was very simple, but he was strict also. He wanted to live his life in a simple way, and he used to teach his children not to waste money on unnecessary things. Kalam said that his father used to avoid any kind of inessential comfort and luxuries. He provided them all the necessary things like food, clothes, and medicines. Kalam stated that his parents fulfilled all his needs, whether it was any physical thing or their love and affection. This shows us that he had the quality of respect. Kalam was thankful to his parents for whatever they did for him. The Second World War broke out in 1939 when I was 8 years old. For reasons I have never been able to understand, a sudden demand for tamarind seeds erupted in the market. I used to collect the seeds and sell them to a provision shop on Mosque Street. A day's collection would fetch me the princely sum of 1 anna. My brother in law, Jalaluddin, would tell me stories about the war which I would later attempt to trace in the headlines in the Namani. Our area, being isolated, was completely unaffected by the war. But soon, India was forced to join the Allied forces, and something like a state of emergency was declared. The first casualty came in the form of the suspension of the train halt at Rameshwaram station. The newspapers now had to be bundled and thrown out from the moving train on the Rameshwaram road between Rameshwaram and Dhanushkodi. That forced my cousin Samsuddin, who distributed newspapers in Rameshwaram, to look for a helping hand to catch the bundles, and as if naturally, I filled the slot. Samsuddin helped me earn my first wages. Half a century later, I can still feel the surge of pride in earning my own money for the first time. Kalam was 8 years old when the Second World War broke in the year 1939. Due to some reason, the demand for tamarind seeds increased in the market. He was not able to understand the reason of that sudden increase in the demand of tamarind seeds. He used to collect and sell those tamarind seeds to a provision shop located on a mosque street. He would earn mere a sum of 1 anna, which equals 6 paisa. When he addressed it as a princely sum, it means he wished to say in ironic way that it was a very less amount. But at that time, this 1 anna meant a lot money to him. Kalam's brother-in-law, Jalaluddin, used to tell him the stories of the ongoing World War. Later, APJ Kalam used to read the newspaper Dinamani and used to look for the news, the same stories. Rameshwaram was a small island town far away from land, so it was not affected by the World War in the beginning. But after some time, India had to join the war and combine with Allied forces. Then a state of emergency was declared in the country. Children, mostly during emergency, the president's rule is implemented in the country. It is like a curfew in the country. A lot of privileges which are given to the people are withdrawn in the case of emergency. So, the first impact of World War II on the people of Rameshwaram was the cancellation of the train stoppage at the Rameshwaram station. Earlier, the train which came from India used to stop at Rameshwaram station and then went further to Dhanushkote without stopping at Rameshwaram. With that, the newspaper bundle which used to come from Rameshwaram was thrown out of moving train as it reached Rameshwaram road. Abdul Kalam's cousin Samsuddin used to distribute the newspapers in Rameshwaram. As the train stoppage was cancelled and the newspaper bundle was thrown out of the moving train, he needed someone to help him catch it. APJ helped Samsuddin by catching the bundle and distributing the newspapers. In return, Samsuddin paid him a salary which was APJ's first earning. The incident had happened 50 years ago. At that time, Kalam was writing the same book, his autobiography. While writing about it, Kalam could feel satisfied and proud of himself. Kalam said here that whenever someone earns his own money with his hard work, he feels it the same way as he did. Every child is born with some inherited characteristics into a specific socio-economic and emotional environment and trained in certain ways by figuring of authority. I inherited honesty and self-discipline from my father, from my mother. I inherited faith in goodness and deep kindness, and so did my three brothers and sister. I had three close friends in my childhood: Ramananda Shastri, Arvindan, and Shiva Prakash. All these boys were from Orthodox Hindu Brahmin families. As children, none of us ever felt any difference amongst ourselves because of our religious differences and upbringing. In fact, Ramananda Shastri was the son of Pakshi Lakshmana Shastri, the high priest of the Rameshwaram temple. Later, he took over the priesthood of the Rameshwaram temple from his father. Arvindan went into the business of arranging transport for visiting pilgrims, and Shiva Prakashan became a catering contractor for the Southern Railways. For any child, the figure of authority is his parents, and the next figure of authority can be his teacher. Mostly, these persons have authority over a child. Here, Kalam is saying that whenever a child is born, he has some qualities which he acquires from the elders in his family. This depends upon the social status of the family and the environment at home. From his father, Kalam had inherited honesty and self discipline, and from his mother, he inherited faith in goodness and deep kindness. His siblings also inherited these qualities from their parents. Kalam had three best friends during his childhood. Their names were Ramananda Shastri, Arvindan, and Shiva Prakashan. All of them belonged to very strict Hindu Brahmin families and were sincere, dedicated followers of their religion. Kalam was from a Muslim family. He said that during his childhood, all the children were so close to each other and that they never felt they belonged to different religions. Religion was not a barrier in their friendship. There is a very famous temple in Rameshwaram, the Rameshwaram temple. Kalam's best friend Ramananda Shastri was the son of Pakshi Lakshmana Shastri, the priest of this temple. When these three friends grew up, Ramananda Shastri took the priesthood of Rameshwaram temple. Arvindan started a business of transporting the pilgrims to and from the Rameshwaram temple, and Shiva Prakashan became a catering contractor for the Southern Railway. He was in charge of the catering for the railways. During the annual Sri Sita Rama Kalyanam ceremony, our family used to arrange boats with a special platform for carrying idols of the Lord from the temple to the marriage site, situated in the middle of the pond called Rama Tirtha, which was near our house. Events from the Ramayana and from the life of the prophet were the bedtime stories my mother and grandmother would tell the children in our family. Whenever the Sri Sita Rama Kalyanam ceremony used to take place, Kalam's family also took part in it. They used to arrange the boats for it. They used to make a special platform on the boats on which the statue of Ram and Sita were placed and transported from the temple to the marriage site, which was in the middle of a pond named Ramatirtha. This pond was near Kalam's house. When he was growing up, he never thought that there was any difference between Hindus and Muslims as they participated in the Hindus' festival wholeheartedly. Kalam here said that they used to listen stories from the Ramayana and the life of the prophet from their mother and grandmother as bedtime stories. So they used to listen stories of both Hindu gods and Muslim gods. There was no differentiation on the grounds of religion in Kalam's house. One day, when I was in the 5th standard at the Rameshwaram Elementary School, a new teacher came to our class. I used to wear a cap which marked me as a Muslim, and I always sat in front row next to Ramananda Shastri, who wore the second thread. The new teacher could not stomach a Hindu priest's son sitting with a Muslim boy. In accordance with our social ranking, as the new teacher saw it, I was asked to go and sit on the back bench. I felt very sad, and so did Ramananda Shastri. He looked utterly downcast as I shifted to my seat in the last row. The image of him weeping when I shifted to the last row left a lasting impression on me. As we know, Kalam belonged to a Muslim family. He used to wear a cap on his head which identified him as a Muslim. His friend Ramananda Shastri, who was the son of the priest of the Rameshwaram temple, belonged to a Hindu Brahmin family and used to wear the second thread janoi worn by Brahmins. When these children were in 5th class, a new teacher came to their class. Kalam here recalled an incident which happened at that time. This new teacher could not tolerate that a Hindu priest's son was sitting next to a Muslim boy. He told Kalam to sit on the last bench as he belonged to a lower rank of the society. Both the children felt very bad. When Kalam changed his seat and went back and sat on the last bench, Ramananda felt very bad. Kalam still remembered the image of his friend Ramananda crying. It left a lifelong impression on Kalam of his friend's feeling for him. After school, we went home and told our respective parents about the incident. Lakshmana Shastri summoned the teacher and in our presence told the teacher that he should not spread the poison of social inequality and communal intolerance in the minds of innocent children. He bluntly asked the teacher to either apologize or quit the school and the island. Not only did the teacher regret his behavior, but the strong sense of conviction Lakshmana Shastri conveyed ultimately reformed this young teacher. Both children went home and told their parents about this incident. And Ramananda's father, Lakshmana Shastri, called the new teacher and scolded him. He told him not to kill the children's friendship by putting the venoms of discrimination of caste and religion into their innocent minds. Lakshmana Shastri was very clear in his thoughts. He told the teacher either he should say sorry for the wrong deed or else he should leave the school and the Rameshwaram town also. The teacher asked sorry for the mistake, whatever he had done, and due to Lakshmana Shastri's determination and his thoughts about religion and caste change, the teacher has changed his total thinking about religion and caste. On the whole, the small society of Rameshwaram was very rigid in terms of the segregation of different social groups. However, my science teacher, Siva Subramanya Iyer, though an orthodox Brahmin with a very conservative wife, was something of a rebel. He did his best to break social barriers so that people from varying backgrounds could mingle easily. He used to spend hours with me. Would say, Kalam, I want you to develop so that you are on par with the highly educated people of the big cities. The division of society into four groups at that time, like Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudras, was strictly followed in Rameshwaram. Abdul Kalam's science teacher Siva Subramaniam Iyer was a religious person, an orthodox Brahmin, but was a rebellious type of person. He did not believe in distinction on the basis of the caste system. He worked very hard to break these social barriers. He wanted that people of different castes should interact with each other. He encouraged APJ Kalam to work hard so that he could be at the same level as the highly educated people who lived in big cities. One day, he invited me to his home for a meal. His wife was horrified at the idea of a Muslim boy being invited to dine in her ritually poor kitchen. She refused to serve me in her kitchen. Siva Subramaniam Iyer was not perturbed, nor did he get angry with his wife, but instead served me with his own hands and sat down beside me to eat his meal. His wife watched us from behind the kitchen door. I wondered whether she had observed any difference in the way I ate rice, drank water, or cleaned the floor after the meal. When I was leaving his house, Siva Subramaniam Iyer invited me to join him for dinner again the next weekend. Observing my hesitation, he told me not to get upset, saying, once you decide to change the system, such problems have to be confronted. When I visited his house the next week, Shiva Subramanya Iyer's wife took me inside her kitchen and served me food with her own hands. Shiva Subramaniam's wife belonged to a traditional and orthodox Brahmin family. She followed the religion very strictly and to keep the kitchen pure. No one from other religion was allowed to enter the kitchen. When Siva Subramaniam Iyer called Kalam for dinner at his home, his wife feared that a boy from a Muslim family would make her kitchen impure. She refused to serve him food in her kitchen. Siva Subramaniam Iyer was neither upset nor angry. He himself served food to Kalam and sat down beside him to eat. His wife stood beside the kitchen door and looked at APJ while he was having food. Kalam says that he does not think that she felt there was any difference in the way he was having his food or the way he was drinking water or in the way he cleaned the floor after the meal. He wants to highlight that religion does not matter as it does not alter the way in which a person eats food. When Kalam was about to leave Siva Subramaniam Iyer's house, he invited him for dinner once again. When Siva Subramaniam Iyer saw that Kalam was hesitated, he asked him not to be upset and added that if he had decided to change the system to go against the norms of the society, he had to be strong and brave and confront the situation. When he visited Siva Subramaniam's Iyer's home for dinner next week, his wife made him sit in the kitchen and served him food with her own hands. This is the change that happened that time. Then the Second World War was over and India's freedom was imminent. Indians will build their own India, declared Gandhiji. The whole country was filled with an unprecedented optimism. I asked my father for permission to leave Rameshwaram and study at the district headquarters in Ramanantapuram. When the Second World War got over in the year 1945, India was about to get freedom, which happened in the year 1947. Gandhiji said that Indians would build their own India. The entire country was filled with hope and happiness. Everyone was experiencing such a feeling which they had never felt before. Everyone was hoping that now they would get their freedom. Kalam asked his father to allow him to go to Ramnathpuram, which was the district headquarters for the higher studies. He told me, as if thinking aloud, Abul, I know you have to go away to grow. Does the seagull not fly across the sun alone and without a nest? He quoted Khalil Gibran to my hesitant mother. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. You may be given them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. In reply, his father told him that he knew that Kalam needed to go away so that he could move ahead in life. He gave the example of a seagull which flies away in the sky all alone and does not have a nest. It means it does not have a home of its own as it keeps on flying from one place to another. When Kalam's mother came to know that he was about to leave home and wanted to go to Ramnathpuram for higher studies, she got upset. Kalam's father tried to calm her down and told her a few lines from a famous poem titled Your Children, written by Khalil Gibran. He said that your children are not your children, they are the children of life. Don't think that you can rule your children. They are a result of life's desire for itself. They have their own thoughts. He asked her to give the freedom to fulfill their thoughts. Now, children, here in further slides, I have given textual question answers. Note down in your notebook with neat and clean handwriting. And learn well for the exam. Thank you.